Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for January 28th, 2022. I'm Benji Fisher, moderating. And also at the meeting are Antonia, who's sharing her screen, Erin McHale, Andre Pedrosa, Beatriz Varela, Marina, Offer Schall, Ralph Kohler, Tiago Baiocchi, and Thomas Howell. We have several new members joining us. Thank you all for joining. And Antonia, why don't you start the discussion?
Right. This is an issue in Drupal core that I've been really frustrated with over the years. This particular one that I am showing on my screen right now is issue number 2848507. And it's related to mostly edit forms in Drupal core. And the fact that HTML5 client-side validation is often preventing forms from being saved. This particular use case usually involves some form of field group. Maybe you've placed vertical tabs or detail elements on the form. And if the field group that contains a required field that hasn't been filled out is not currently visible, if it's not the active tab or detail, you will most probably not get any feedback about the field that's missing. I don't think that we're gonna be able to decide anything particular related to the, anything specific related to the implementation. But the current state is we sort of have different issues about this this problem, and I wish we could maybe narrow it down to a single issue, a single approach we agree on, and that we should focus on. Because I see here related issues in the field group module. So there have been efforts in Contrib to fix this. I see a lot of related issues in core. I've just opened issue number 1797438. And a lot of those issues are like almost 10 years old. So this has been a problem for a while. And there are dozens of comments on all of the issues. And I think this particular one, people here came to the conclusion that HTML5 validation should be disabled, which obviously needs a change record, yeah. Other issues have made efforts for towards fixing this issue. And I'm really not sure if I can give a nice overview over the current state. So I was basically wondering if anyone here has dealt with this before, if they have maybe worked on one of those issues before, if they have an opinion on whether or not we should disable HTML5 client-side validation altogether, or fix the problem in JavaScript, maybe. it's it's rather confusing. I think.
Well, I think we do have the luxury that we don't have to consider implementation. That's not our job. It's not the job of the usability team. So if you go back to the first issue, some of the mock-ups I see there look pretty reasonable. You know, if say a details element, for example, is the parent of something with an error, then highlighting it with red and so forth seems like a pretty good solution from a usability point of view. Again, we don't have to worry about how hard it is to implement. Is there any reason not to use that proposal?
So just
sorry, go ahead.
Sure. So just to clarify, so the problem fundamentally is that if you have a complex form that has maybe different field groups, when HTML5 validation kicks in, when you press the submit button, it's not obvious what field has triggered the error if that field is in a panel that isn't open. Is that's fundamentally the problem? Is that right?
Right. I assume that when that happens, you get like a console error in your browser saying the field so and so cannot be focused. It cannot be handled or processed by the client side validate. I think I have a form somewhere.
Right. And so the proposed idea would be to turn off the HTML5 validation so that we could display some kind of indication that there's an error, like as we saw highlighted in the detail element that has the error in it.
I think one of the issues, I think it was not, who said that, well, basically in the last 10 years, there hasn't been any progress with this. So we might as well disable HTML5 client-side validation altogether by adding the no validate tag to the form, attribute to the form. Oh yeah, it was comment number 171 on issue 1797438.
And I posted a link to that issue in the Zoom chat.
Oh, thank you. So I guess the usability, or maybe the bigger usability question is, should we do that? Are there any, things that we should consider before we disable it altogether, or should we gather all the, I don't know, a lot of patches in a lot of different issues and decide on the best approach in client side?
So I guess the question we can answer here, as Benji said, is not to necessarily worry about how exactly it's implemented. So not necessarily worry about what parts of browser-based validation, client-side validation we use, whether that's a JavaScript implementation or disabling HTML5 validation, whatever that is. But I think the proposal fundamentally to highlight the detail element that has the error in it, I think that is a sensible proposal, because then we're surfacing where the problem is. Because right now, if we understand it correctly, you just don't see, there's no way for you to find where the field with the error occurs without going into every detail element and finding it, or every panel.
Correct. The server-side validation does kick in if you add the no validate attribute to the form. So when you get the result from the server, you do have a highlighting where it says that, you know, there are things invalid in there,
Right.
but client side is the first issue. Yeah. So yeah, an indication, a visual indication would definitely improve the current state.
So I guess the next steps here are maybe things that should not be done as part of the meeting, but I think the next steps are to go through the issue. The one we started with is a meta issue, isn't it?
Uh,
Maybe, I
I
guess
think
it's,
the parent issue was the meta, which was closed after inline form errors was moved to.
okay, so I guess the issue we
Yeah.
started with is not a meta issue.
Mhm.
But let's go through here, review the many related issues. First of all, for our purposes, find out if there are any usability questions. I mean, it's obviously a usability problem, but offhand, it looks like we know where we would like to be. We would like to have HTML5 validation enabled and show it on the closed detail element or field set. So I think we know where we want to be from a usability perspective, but maybe I'm missing something. So that's the first step. Find are there usability questions involved here? And then the next stage, which is maybe bigger, is to consolidate the various related issues and decide where we have to focus and what needs to be done. Do we need a JavaScript expert? Do we need, I don't know. Why is this so hard? It would be nice to know, but again, that's an implementation question, which isn't really our job. But on the other hand, it is part of our job to move the issue forward. So if we can at least identify sort of what expertise is needed, get some idea of how big a job it is, then I think that would be a good thing to do. Ralph, go ahead.
Yeah, and I have one question I ask myself when looking at the mock-ups. What's the purpose of the closing button for the highlighted field group? Because from my expectation, it's some sort of dismissal, meaning I click that focus away. But from a usability perspective, from my perspective, I would say it would be nice if, for example, if the form is sent and then those highlighted, the field groups get highlighted which have missing or false entries, and if then the user gets opens that field set and enters the correct value, for example, and in that case, for example, the client-side validation would be nice to get the user gets a feedback that the new value is correct now, but the closing button doesn't make much sense from my perspective. But perhaps
It's some sort of
I agree
icon.
with Hoff. I agree with him. I think that probably like even a red asterisk would be better, or an exclamation mark in the instead of the X button.
Yes, I think it's an icon, but yeah, the icon could be more suitable.
Isn't that the same icon we use to indicate an error in a status message as opposed to info or warning?
I've been using Claro for a while. I'm not quite sure what icon Claro had. Well, yeah, it looks like it's error SVG, judging by the CSS in the patch.
Right.
So if we change the icon, we might change a lot of different things without wanting.
And if that is the error icon, it seems to be, then that's something that could be addressed in a follow-up issue. It's really the responsibility of the theme. And I agree it can be confusing. It does look like a close button, which is somewhat confusing. But I think that I'm willing to live with that bit of confusion if it's the first step. If we can get this sort of red highlighting, I think that would be a big step forward. And then we could consider different icons and see what it looks like in Claro, open follow-up issues. But if we could get this far, I think that would be a big step in the right direction. And
Yeah, that
Ralph
would
gives
definitely
a
be
thumbs
better.
up. And are there any other comments on this issue? Okay, I'll ask again if there are other issues people would like to talk about. We seem to have a larger group than usual, but not many suggestions for topics to talk about, which is an unfortunate mismatch. So I guess rather than continue the meeting till the end of the hour for the sake of having a meeting, we can just call it now. I'll remind you that if you're someone who's new to this meeting, then please give me your Drupal.org username, preferably in the UX Slack channel, and I'll be able to give you issue credit for attending this meeting. I'll stop there. Before I make it public, I'll trim the recording at about here. If people want to hang on and I'll stay around for a little while if you have any questions about the usability group, about how to contribute in the future. But I think let's call this the end of the meeting for now.
Thanks, Benji. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
You